The classroom went silent when the alien teacher dropped the skull onto the podium with a sickening thud. It wasn't small. The skull stretched almost as wide as the teacher's torso, a gnarled, jagged thing with ridges like knives and teeth that looked like they could chew through steel. Its sockets were hollow, but even empty, they seemed to glare at the students like some predator still hungry despite death. Gasps rippled through the room. One alien student whimpered. Another hissed and pressed their claws against the desk as if bracing for an attack. The teacher, a Vorkathian named Thrykul, let the silence linger before his mandibles spread wide in something halfway between a grin and a snarl. His voice rumbled low, clicking and grinding like stone dragged against stone. "This," he announced, "is the skull of a Graal hunter. Apex predator of Sector 9. It killed 40 soldiers of my kin before it was slain. It is not a lesson. It is a warning." The class flinched. Dozens of species were represented, scaled, furred, feathered, and chitinous. They had come to the Galactic Academy to learn about survival, combat, history of war, tactics against enemies of the void. Most were young, untested, their hides still soft, their bones unscarred. But today's lesson was not diagrams or theory. It was intimidation. "Some of you believe you are strong," Thrykul growled, pacing slowly across the platform. "You believe your claws, your venom, your instincts will protect you. They will not. The void does not care for instinct. It rewards brutality, cunning, domination. The Graal hunter feasted on those who underestimated it. Just as the void will feast on you." Several students lowered their eyes. None dared challenge the teacher. None, except one. Near the back of the class, a human leaned lazily in his seat, arms crossed, lips curved into a faint smirk. His name was Jason Hale, and he looked nothing like the others. He had no claws. No venom sacs. No horns or quills or fangs. His body looked fragile compared to the scaled brutes sitting beside him, just flesh and bone wrapped in a simple academy uniform. He had come to the academy alone, without a clan or pack to defend him. But Jason didn't look cowed. He looked amused. One of the clawed students next to him leaned close, whispering in their guttural tongue. "You should lower your gaze, human. Thrykul despises arrogance." Jason chuckled. "Arrogance? No. Just perspective." The whisperer blinked. "Perspective? What did that mean?" Up front, Thrykul's many eyes scanned the class, lingering at last on Jason. "And you, human," the teacher hissed, his mandibles clicking with contempt. "You smile. Do you find death amusing?" Jason leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. His smile widened, slow and deliberate, like a gambler with a hand no one else could see. "Not at all. But where I come from, that skull would be a small trophy." The class froze. Several students twisted in their seats to stare at him. The silence that followed was deafening, like the air before a lightning strike. Thrykul stopped pacing. His armored chest rose and fell, a low growl reverberating in his throat. "Explain," he demanded. Jason stood. He wasn't tall compared to some of the reptilian or insectoid students, but the way he moved, calm, confident, drew every gaze to him. He walked to the front, each step echoing against the cold alloy floor. He stopped beside the massive skull. For a moment he studied it, running his hand along the jagged ridge of bone. Then he looked back at the teacher. "On Earth, we've got predators like this. Some smaller. Some larger. We've been collecting their skulls for centuries. For sport. For science. For survival. And where I come from, slamming one down like this," he gestured at the Graal hunter's skull, "wouldn't frighten anyone. It'd just start a competition." The students murmured, voices overlapping in disbelief. "Sport? Collecting skulls? Competition?" Thrykul tilted his head, his mandibles clicking in sharp bursts, the Vorkathian equivalent of laughter. "You boast. You claim fragility is strength. Lies to comfort yourself in a galaxy that pities your species." He leaned closer, his multiple eyes narrowing. "Prove it. Jason's smirk sharpened. Gladly. The human reached into the satchel he carried, something no one had paid much attention to until now, and with a grunt, he pulled out an object wrapped in reinforced cloth. He dropped it onto the podium with a weighty thunk. The podium groaned. The cloth fell away. Gasps filled the classroom. It was another skull, this one even larger than the Growlhunter's. Its jawline stretched wider, its teeth longer and sharper, some broken from violence. Deep gouges scored the bone, scars of battles long past. Jason placed a hand on it, casual as if showing off a school project. This belonged to a megalodon. Apex predator of Earth's oceans. Bigger than any Growlhunter I've read about. Our ancestors hunted these without spacecraft. Without plasma rifles. Just harpoons, wooden boats, and stubbornness. The class erupted. Voices overlapped, some in awe, some in disbelief. Impossible! Hissed one scaled student. Fabrication! Another spat. Thrwykel's mandibles twitched. His claws scraped against the podium as he studied the skull. His voice dropped lower, suspicion mingling with unease. Why bring this artifact here? Jason shrugged. Because I knew you'd try something like this. You want to teach fear? Fine. But humans don't scare easy. We don't bow to teeth and claws. We look at monsters and think, how do we kill it? And then, once we've killed it, he tapped the skull with a dull knock of his knuckles. We make sure everyone remembers. The silence that followed was suffocating. For the first time, the alien students looked at Jason not as a fragile anomaly, but as something else entirely. Something dangerous. Thrwykel's claws flexed, his tone dropping into a hiss. You presume much, human. Do you believe this will make you respected here? You think to frighten me with bones? Jason met his gaze without flinching. Not trying to frighten you. Just making sure everyone here knows, Earth doesn't play prey. The words struck the classroom like a shockwave. Even those who didn't fully grasp human language felt the weight behind them. One of the braver alien students raised a trembling hand. Are there more like you? More humans who carry skulls of monsters? Jason chuckled. Oh, I'm the polite one. Laughter rippled nervously through the classroom. Some genuine, some strained. The predator skulls glared from the podium, one alien, one human, locked in a silent contest of whose shadow loomed larger. But beneath the surface, something else shifted. The hierarchy of fear, long dominated by fangs and claws, had been disrupted. For the first time, the alien students wondered if the soft-skinned newcomer might be the most dangerous one among them. And Thrwykel knew it too. His mandibles twitched with restrained fury. He had brought the Growlhunter skull to intimidate, to crush pride, to establish dominance. But the human had turned the lesson back on him, casually, effortlessly. The class would not forget this moment. Nor would Thrwykel. Jason, meanwhile, returned to his seat, the faint smile never leaving his face. He leaned back, folded his arms, and let the whispers ripple through the room. Some were skeptical, others intrigued, a few even fearful. But one thing was certain, no one saw the human as harmless anymore. And Jason? He looked like he was just getting started. The whispers didn't stop after class. By the time Jason walked out of the lecture hall, every alien eye seemed to follow him. Some looked at him with disbelief, others with curiosity, but most carried something new, unease. The human wasn't supposed to be the center of attention at the Galactic Academy. He was supposed to be a curiosity, a fragile little mammal barely clinging to existence in a galaxy full of apex predators. But now, he was the one who had silenced Thrwykel. Jason smirked as he walked through the Academy's vast halls, lined with towering statues of warriors from dozens of species. None of them human. Yet. Behind him, claws clicked against the metal floor. A scaled alien, 3 times Jason's mass, caught up. His spines rattled with agitation. Human! He hissed, his tongue flicking in and out. You mock Thrwykel too openly. He will not forgive. Vorkathians never forgive. Jason didn't slow his stride. Good. Keeps things interesting. The alien clicked his fangs nervously. Interesting? You think he will only glare at you? He will challenge you. Perhaps destroy you. Jason chuckled. Maybe. But here's the thing, you don't beat people like SCI-FI by backing down. You beat them by making sure they regret underestimating you. The alien blinked, then fell silent, unsure if Jason was bold or insane. Jason reached his quarters, the door sliding open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was bare, just a bunk, a desk, and the megalodon's skull sitting proudly on the shelf like a silent guardian. Jason dropped his satchel, leaned back in his chair, and let out a long breath. He knew the look in SCI-Fi's eyes. That wasn't just anger. That was wounded pride. And wounded pride always demanded repayment. Sure enough, the announcement came the very next morning. Attention, cadets! The Academy's intercom blared, its metallic voice resonating through every hall. Instructor SCI-Fi has issued a combat challenge for the human cadet, Jason Hale. Arena 1. Attendance mandatory. The halls erupted with chatter. A combat challenge was rare. It was the Academy's way of resolving disputes, testing strength, and, most often, humiliating the weak. The whispers swelled. The humans finished. The Vorkathian will tear him apart. No flesh creature could survive a duel with SCI-Fi. Jason just grinned as he tightened the straps of his boots. Arena 1 was massive, a coliseum carved from alloy and stone, with walls high enough to contain beasts the size of gunships. Students filled the stands, their voices echoing in dozens of dialects. Some came for the spectacle, others for the certainty of seeing the human crushed. Jason walked into the center with his usual calm, his hands empty, no weapons in sight. Across from him, SCI-Fi emerged, armored plates glinting under the lights. His claws dripped faint venom, his mandibles flared wide in anticipation. This is your last lesson, human, SCI-Fi hissed, his voice carrying across the arena. Your bones will decorate these sands. Jason tilted his head. Funny. You sound nervous. The crowd gasped. To taunt a Vorkathian warrior was madness. SCI-Fi roared, shaking the arena. The signal blared. The duel began. SCI-Fi lunged with terrifying speed, claws flashing. The crowd leaned forward, expecting to see the human shredded in the first strike. But Jason wasn't there. He ducked low, rolled sideways, and the claws scraped sparks against the ground where he had been. Jason popped back up, light on his feet, grinning like he was enjoying a sparring match. Slow, Jason said, shaking his head. SCI-Fi snarled and struck again, faster this time, mandibles snapping inches from Jason's face. Jason twisted, pivoted, let the strike slide past him, and tapped SCI-Fi's armored side with two fingers like he was checking for weak spots. The crowd roared, some in disbelief, others in amusement. The fragile human wasn't just surviving, he was playing. SCI-Fi grew more furious with every miss. His strikes became heavier, louder, tearing gouges into the arena floor. Jason danced around them, dodging by inches, never counterattacking, just letting the Vorkathian exhaust himself. You fight like prey! SCI-Fi spat, panting harder now. Jason's smile thinned. His voice dropped, sharp as steel. No. I fight like a hunter who knows patience kills faster than claws. Then he moved. For the first time, Jason struck back. He stepped inside SCI-Fi's reach, ducked a claw swipe, and slammed his elbow into a joint in the alien's armor. The impact echoed like a crack of thunder. SCI-Fi staggered. Jason pressed, quick and precise, an open palm strike to the mandibles, a knee to the lower plates, another sharp blow to the exposed joint. Each move was surgical, targeted, controlled. The crowd howled. SCI-Fi roared in pain, thrashing wildly. His claws slashed, catching Jason's side at last, tearing through fabric, drawing blood. Gasps erupted from the stands. Jason grimaced but only grinned wider, blood dripping down his ribcage. Finally! Thought you'd never land one. The madness of the words rattled even the spectators. Who laughed while bleeding against the predator? T'Challa charged, trying to end it in brute force. Jason didn't retreat. He surged forward, ducking under the swing, driving his shoulder into T'Challa's chest with explosive momentum. The Vorkathian staggered back, his balance broken, and Jason shoved him hard enough to slam into the arena wall. Silence fell. A human had just overpowered a Vorkathian. Jason didn't press further. He stepped back, wiping blood from his side, and raised his voice for the entire arena. You think strength is claws and teeth? You're wrong. Strength is knowing where to strike, how to wait, when to move. Humans learn that by hunting monsters bigger than us. We didn't run. We adapted. And we killed. His words rang out, and the crowd trembled with something unfamiliar: respect. T'Challa staggered upright, rage and humiliation warring in his eyes. He lunged one final time, desperate to reclaim dominance. Jason sidestepped, hooked the alien's arm, and with a fluid motion, flipped the Vorkathian over his shoulder. The mighty instructor crashed to the ground. The arena shook with the impact. Jason stood over him, breathing hard, blood soaking his side but eyes burning with steady defiance. He didn't raise a fist for the finishing blow. Instead, he stepped back. Lesson's over, Jason said. The arena erupted. Some cheered, others hissed in disbelief, but no one could deny what they had seen. A human had stood against a predator and won. T'Challa lay on the ground, staring up at the human with a mixture of rage and something far more dangerous: fear. His pride had been shattered before hundreds of witnesses. He would never forgive this humiliation. Jason knew it too. As he walked out of the arena, every step heavy with blood and victory, he knew the battle wasn't finished. T'Challa wasn't done. He'd come back, harder, deadlier, desperate to break the human who had defied him. And that was fine. Because Jason wasn't done either. The academy hadn't been that loud in years. Jason's victory over T'Challa spread like wildfire through every hall, cafeteria, and training dome. Rumors twisted into legends within hours. Some said the human had broken T'Challa's armor with his bare hands. Others swore he had laughed while bleeding out. A few even claimed the skull he had brought wasn't the largest he owned, that humans had entire vaults filled with bones of monsters that made Grawl hunters look like rodents. Jason ignored the chatter. He knew the important part: nobody looked at him the same way anymore. They looked longer, with more caution, even respect. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he wasn't dismissed as a fragile oddity. But the stares weren't all admiration. T'Challa had gone silent. The Vorkathian had been carried from the arena seething with rage, mandibles clamped so tight they'd cracked enamel. He had said nothing to Jason, nothing to the academy, nothing to his fellow instructors. He vanished into the shadows of the faculty wing, and silence hung heavier than any roar. Jason knew that silence. It wasn't surrender. It was plotting. He kept training. Every morning, while the others stretched claws or flexed wings, Jason drilled quietly in one of the smaller domes. Not brute force, precision. Movements that look simple until repeated 100 times. The pivot of a foot, the shift of balance, the snap of an elbow. Humans didn't waste strength, they honed it. Still, Jason wasn't naive. He expected retaliation. The only question was how. The answer came sooner than expected. One evening, as he returned to his quarters, the door slid open, and his room was wrecked. His bunk shredded, his desk overturned, the megalodon's skull shattered on the floor. Jagged fragments littered the metal like the remains of a fallen titan. Jason froze. His jaw clenched. He crouched, picking up a shard of bone. It was heavy, still carrying the faint scent of salt from Earth's oceans, a relic carried across light years. And now it was dust. Jason's fingers tightened until the shard dug into his palm. He didn't need a signature to know who had done it. The message was clear: I can destroy what you cherish. Next time, it's you. Jason set the shard gently on the desk and sat down in the wreckage. His eyes narrowed. All right, T'Challa. You want round two? Fine. But you should have left the skull alone. The escalation didn't stop there. Training sessions grew harder. Thrykol was still an instructor, still with authority, and he used it mercilessly. He doubled Jason's drills, forced him into survival scenarios no cadet should face, and paired him against opponents 3 times his size. The message to the other students was subtle but clear: the human is prey. Watch me break him piece by piece. But Jason never broke. He came out of every exercise battered, bloodied, but always standing. When pinned by a 6-limbed Tari brute, he slipped free with leverage. When surrounded by drone swarms, he turned them against each other with traps of improvised fire. When ordered to endure the Academy's endurance gauntlet, a brutal 40-hour trial across simulated deserts, jungles, and frozen wastes, he didn't just survive. He crossed the finish line first. The other cadets started whispering something new: maybe the human can't be broken. That made Thrykol furious. The Vorkathian began to scheme outside the bounds of the Academy. Jason didn't know the details at first, but he felt the pressure mounting. His food rations were tampered with, the oxygen flow in his quarters fluctuated suspiciously, and once, the grav field in his training dome spiked so high it nearly crushed him flat. Jason knew sabotage when he saw it. He'd grown up in places where losing a fight didn't just mean a black eye, it meant being buried. He didn't panic. He adapted. He checked every ration before eating. He slept lightly, knife in reach. And when the grav field nearly killed him, he simply got back up, bones aching, and finished his drills while others watched in stunned silence. But then came the final move. An announcement echoed one morning, cold and official. By order of Instructor Thrykol and approved by the Council of Masters, Cadet Jason Hale is to undergo a predator trial. Effective immediately. The Academy fell into chaos. The predator trial was no training exercise. It was a test reserved for the most dangerous cadets, or those accused of dishonor. A cadet was released into the wild zone, an artificial biosphere filled with the deadliest alien predators collected by the Academy. The cadet's task: survive for 10 cycles. Few lasted 3. The alien students buzzed with horror and excitement. Some thought it was justice. Others whispered it was murder disguised as tradition. But no one could stop it. Once declared, the predator trial could not be withdrawn. Jason stood in the prep chamber as the automated system stripped his uniform down to a survival rig. He was given only a blade, a coil of rope, and a small pack of basic supplies. No rifle, no armor, no comms. Thrykol loomed just beyond the barrier, mandibles twitching with smug delight. This is where the boasting ends, human. The predators of the void will tear you apart, as they have countless stronger cadets before you. Jason tightened the strap of his pack. He glanced at Thrykol, then at the cluster of alien cadets watching from behind the safety glass. Their faces were a mixture of dread and fascination. He smirked. You really don't get humans, do you? You keep throwing monsters at us. That's just home. The doors opened. The trial began. Jason stepped into the wild zone, and the door sealed shut behind him. The air hit him like a fist, humid, thick with the scent of alien flora. Trees with bark like steel rose overhead, their canopies blotting out the light. Strange calls echoed through the foliage, guttural and sharp, predators announcing themselves. Jason crouched, scanning the ground. Tracks, massive 3-toed prints pressed deep into the mud. The trial wasn't starting slow. Something big was hunting already. He grinned. All right. Let's see what we're working with. The hunt was on. The first predator revealed itself within hours, a 6-legged beast with translucent skin, muscles pulsing beneath, and a jaw that split into 4 sections lined with serrated teeth. It burst from the brush with a screech that rattled the canopy. Jason didn't run. He sidestepped, rope already in hand, looping it around a tree trunk as the beast lunged. He dove low, sliding beneath its bulk, and yanked the rope taut. The predator's own momentum snapped the line tight across its throat. It stumbled, gurgling, thrashing. Jason drove his blade into its exposed chest, twisting until the creature shuddered and collapsed. He yanked the blade free, panting, covered in steaming alien blood. He looked back at the cameras hidden in the trees, knowing T'Challa was watching. Jason raised the blade in salute, grinning through the blood. One down. But there were more. Many more. The trial didn't let up. Packs of scaled hunters stalked him through the undergrowth. Venomous flyers harried him from above. At night, massive shadowed shapes prowled just beyond the firelight. Jason's body grew bruised, cut, and exhausted, but he pressed on. Every predator that lunged found a trap waiting. A vine snare that snapped a beast's leg. A pit covered with branches that swallowed a charging brute. A sharpened stake driven into the throat of a flyer mid-dive. Jason's mind was his greatest weapon. He adapted to every new horror with the same ruthless creativity humans had always carried, the instinct not just to survive, but to turn survival into dominance. By the fifth cycle, whispers spread across the academy. The human wasn't just alive. He was thriving. He was hunting the hunters. By the seventh, Jason had turned the trial zone into something unthinkable, his territory. The predators began avoiding his traps, their movements more cautious. He had shifted the balance. And by the ninth cycle, Jason did the unthinkable. He left a pile of skulls at the camera's feed, stacked like trophies. The message was undeniable. When the 10th cycle ended, the doors opened. Jason staggered out, scarred, bloodied, but grinning. His pack bulged with bones. He dropped them at T'Challa's feet with a heavy thud. The Vorkathian froze. His eyes darted to the skulls, then back to the human who refused to die. Jason leaned close, voice low enough for only T'Challa to hear. You wanted proof? There it is. We don't just survive monsters. We make them remember us. The academy erupted in cheers, hisses, and stunned silence all at once. Jason stood taller, blood still dripping from his wounds, a predator among predators. And T'Challa? For the first time, he looked afraid. The academy was never the same after Jason walked out of the predator trial alive. Whispers turned into roars. By the end of the day, cadets from every wing had heard the story. The human who not only survived the deadliest test in the academy, but walked out grinning, a trail of skulls behind him. Some called it impossible. Others swore Jason was some kind of genetic anomaly. But deep down, every cadet began to wonder, if one human could do this, what could an army of them accomplish? T'Challa hated every second of it. The Vorkathian prowled the halls with his mandibles clenched, his claws clicking against the floor in staccato bursts of fury. His reputation, once untouchable, was unraveling. Students no longer cowered when he raised his voice. They glanced toward Jason instead, as if measuring his approval against their instructor's threats. Humiliation was one thing. Fear of losing control, that was another. T'Challa wasn't finished. He would not allow a soft-skinned mammal to overturn centuries of Vorkathian dominance at the academy. If the predator trial hadn't broken the human, then something more drastic would. Jason knew it too. He felt the tension coiling tighter with each passing day. He could see the rage simmering in T'Challa's eyes during lectures, the way the instructor's claws lingered too long on the podium, scratching deep grooves into the alloy. But Jason didn't flinch. He trained harder. He laughed louder. And when cadets came to him quietly, asking how he'd survived, how he'd set traps, how he'd fought monsters with nothing but rope and steel, he taught them. That was what really broke the balance. For centuries, the academy had taught cadets that survival came from instinct, from genetic gifts, from claws and venom sacs and armored plates. But Jason showed them something new. He showed them patience, improvisation, and cunning. He showed them how to fight smarter instead of just harder. And the cadets loved it. By the end of the cycle, Jason had a following. Aliens with wings, scales, fur, and chitin gathered in secret to train with him, to learn human methods. They practiced together, mixing their natural strengths with Jason's strange, surgical style. Rumors swirled. The human is building a pack. T'Challa couldn't tolerate it. He needed to end Jason, not just in combat, but publicly, undeniably, so that no cadet would dare follow him again. The opportunity came during the annual Dominance Exhibition. It was the Academy's most prestigious event. Instructors demonstrated their supremacy, cadets performed before the Council of Masters, and the most dangerous creatures of the galaxy were displayed as living lessons. It was both a show of strength and a reminder of hierarchy. T'Char saw his chance. He arranged for Jason to be volunteered into the exhibition as a challenger. The plan was simple: put the human in the arena against something no cadet should face, one of the largest predators the Academy had ever captured. No rope, no time to prepare traps, just raw survival against overwhelming force. When Jason's name was announced, the audience roared. Some cheered, others hissed, but none looked away. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Jason stepped into the arena, rolling his shoulders, his grin intact. Across the sand, massive gates opened, and the ground shook with thunderous steps. Out lumbered the beast, a Kothrex devourer. 30 feet tall, plated in obsidian scales, with a maw wide enough to swallow a hovercraft whole. Its roar shook the walls, rattling the air itself. The cadets gasped. Even some instructors muttered uneasily. This wasn't a test, it was an execution. T'Char stood proudly at the edge of the arena, mandibles flaring in satisfaction. This ends today, he hissed under his breath. Jason, however, just chuckled. Big fella. Guess I'll need a bigger shelf. The beast charged, its claws tearing trenches into the sand. Jason didn't run. He sprinted toward it. The audience screamed. At the last instant, Jason dove low, rolling beneath the monster's belly. As it thundered past, he sprang up, driving his blade into a gap between scales. The beast shrieked, twisting violently. Jason was thrown, tumbling across the sand. He scrambled up, bleeding, but his grin never faded. Not bad. Let's dance. The fight raged. The devourer struck with claws like falling trees, each one capable of flattening him. Jason dodged, weaving, always moving, always looking for weakness. He slashed at joints, jabbed at the maw, using speed instead of strength. But the devourer was relentless. A swipe caught him, hurling him across the arena. He landed hard, ribs screaming. The crowd groaned. Surely this was the end. Jason spat blood, pushed himself up, and laughed hoarsely. You hit softer than T'Char. The arena erupted in shocked laughter. Even the masters leaned forward, intrigued. T'Char seethed. The beast roared again, lunging. Jason had seconds. He sprinted toward one of the arena's broken columns, ancient, jagged stone left for decoration. As the monster lunged, Jason scaled the column in a desperate climb, leaping to the top. The devourer smashed into the base, cracking the stone. Jason leapt off, grabbing one of the massive chains that hung as part of the arena's ornamentation. He swung, timing it perfectly, and drove the chain's hook into the devourer's eye. The beast shrieked, thrashing wildly. Jason climbed higher, looping the chain across its neck, yanking with everything he had. The devourer stumbled, crashing into the arena wall. The ground quaked. Dust clouded the air. When it cleared, Jason stood atop the fallen beast, the chain wrapped tight around its throat. His chest heaved, blood dripped from his wounds, but his eyes blazed with fire. The crowd erupted in a roar that shook the Academy to its core. Jason raised his voice, loud enough for all to hear. Strength isn't about claws, or scales, or venom. Strength is refusing to die when everything says you should. That's what humans are. That's what Earth made us. He yanked his blade free, slamming it into the devourer's skull with a final, decisive strike. The beast went still. The silence that followed was absolute. Then came the cheers. Cadets from every species howled, shrieked, or roared in their own way, the sound crashing together into a tidal wave. They weren't just cheering victory. They were cheering defiance. Jason climbed down, walking straight toward T'Char. The Vorkathian's mandibles twitched violently, his claws digging into the stone railing. Jason dropped the skull fragment of the devourer at his feet. I told you! Bigger shelf! The cadets erupted again, laughter mixing with cheers. Even some instructors couldn't hold back their amusement. The humiliation was total. Teacher Waiko froze, every eye on him. He could strike now, he could roar, he could lash out, but no one would follow him. Not after this. The academy had seen who truly commanded respect. The masters rose, their voices booming. The human has proven himself. Not as prey. Not as anomaly. But as warrior. Jason gave a mock bow, bloodied but grinning. Took you long enough. From that day, the academy changed. Cadets trained not just in instinct but in strategy. They copied Jason's methods, blending human cunning with alien ferocity. Whispers turned into pride, we trained with a human. And Jason? He sat in the mess hall, bandaged but smiling, surrounded by cadets of every shape and size, all eager to hear his stories. He told them of Earth, not with arrogance but with humor. Of how humans hunted giants with spears, wrestled oceans, and looked at monsters not as gods, but as challenges. And every time he spoke, the cadets listened like disciples to a new creed. Teacher Waiko vanished soon after, stripped of honor, a shadow of what he had once been. No one missed him. Jason didn't celebrate with triumph. He celebrated with laughter. Because at the end of the day, the greatest weapon humans had wasn't just strength or cunning. It was the ability to turn even fear into a story worth telling. And as he looked around at the alien cadets laughing, training, and whispering about the strange, dangerous mammals from Earth, Jason knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning.